What's up, Spider Nation? This is episode number 9 of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I can't believe I actually remembered the episode number because I didn't even look it up before the episode started. So that's a very good thing. That means I have somewhat of a reliable memory. Joining me tonight is Mr. James. Say hello to the people, James.
I'm depressed. We just read Back in Black, people. God, is that comic depressing.
For those of you who do not know, last week we covered Civil War, and this week we've decided to cover Back in Black. We literally have nothing else to talk about this week because there is still no official confirmation of any movie casting or movie news or anything like that, and there's not really a lot of comic news. But I will say right off the bat, if this rumor that Matthew McConaughey could play Norman Osborn is true, complete. He really wants to see Norman Osborn say, all right, all right, all right.
Okay, and if I can say, not a fan of Spider-Man, it's the Marvel Universe page. People were getting saying, I'm tired of the Green Goblin. I'm tired of the Green Goblin. Why do they keep on putting Norman in here? I'm tired of the Goblin. And I'm thinking, yeah, say that about Jared Leto being cast as the Joker, and what's his name from the Facebook movie getting cast as Lex Luger. Oh yeah,
Jesse
those guys
Eisenberg.
have been. Yeah, those people. Okay, that will make that the sixth Lex Luthor in 7 movies. Repeat, the sixth Lex Luthor in 7 movies. And then you have, Jared Leto, the 4th live-action Joker. So stop saying that they're recasting Green Goblin. That, oh my God, why won't they move on from the Goblins? He's Spider-Man's biggest enemy, just like Lex Luthor and just like the Joker. That's why he gets recast just like them.
But James, don't you want to see Will-O-the-Wisp in the movie? Or some classy villain like the Rocket Racer?
I agree that, okay, I prefer a different villain. Like I said, Doc Ock, because then you could probably tie it into the origin that, kind of like what they did with Chapter 1 in Ultimate, where it was Ock's lab where Peter got bit by the spider. Like they could do something like that where Peter said, Doc Ock, it's where I got bit by the spider at. Flashback here, okay, now we got the origin out of the way. Kind of thing. Like, I felt like they could do it that way, but if they do Norman, I'm fine with it because he's Spider-Man's greatest enemy. He's their Joker. He's their Lex. He's going to get other movies. Marvel Cinematic needs a Green Goblin Spider-Man fight. I'm sorry.
Marvel Cinematic Universe needs a lot of things. Personally, I was still pushing for the Scorpion as the villain for the first movie, but whatever. I mean, I only said the Scorpion because I want.
Then you would have to explain Jonah hating Spider-Man and setting up Matt Gargan and all that stuff. It would have been that's more of a sequel bait, I think.
Yeah. I would love to see the Shocker in the MCU though. I would love to see that. I like the Shocker a lot.
They probably will never do it now because of what Ultimate did to him. When he became a joke, post-Ultimate Spider-Man, they'll never do Shocker as a serious villain in a movie. If anything, he'll be like Rhino in Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he's just there for one or two fights and he's gone.
Personally, that's all I need to see from the Shocker. If he's there for 1 or 2 fights, I'd say that would satisfy me as a quote-unquote Shocker fan. I would be okay with.
Which is what I found so funny is, like, during the Raimi trilogy, so many people were like, one thing I would have liked is they could get rid of the lesser-known villains like a Shocker or a Captain Boomerang or Rocket Racer. They could have them be, like, in the opening or the ending as, like, a quick fight little thing. They do that with Rhino and Amazing Spider-Man 2. What a piece of bullshit!
Wow, hypocrisy? That's never happened before. That was sarcasm for anyone who doesn't realize that. Alright. So, yeah, there's really not a lot of news. I will just say, if we can get the Green Goblin to speak, to be Matthew McConaughey, I would be okay with that. Mainly, I don't know how well they would be able to do it, but just the idea of Matthew McConaughey being Norman Osborn makes me very happy in ways. Just give me Matthew McConaughey. Just do it. Just do it.
And it makes his one line that he has in Dazed and Confused really more creepier when you imagine it being said by Norman Osborn. The thing I like about high school girls, I get older, but they stay the same age. All right, all right. Just imagine that with Norman Osborn, with Sin's Past and all the shit that Norman has done with women over the years. It makes Norman extra creepy when you think of Norman saying that.
Norman is creepy without having to be Matthew McConaughey. I'll be quite honest with you. All right, so moving off of random rumors of casting, I don't think there was any other quote unquote news stuff to talk about this week. So we're just going to dive right into Back in Black because obviously when we talk about Civil War, Back in Black is the next obvious step. As I pull the digital comic up on my phone here because I was not prepared, because I just realized I need to give the creative team for this. Let me tell you, just to give just a little background.
Oh, sorry.
Just a little background information on Back in Black itself. Back in Black was released in 2007, immediately following the Civil War arc, and just around the time of the release of Spider-Man 3, the movie. So, obviously, Marvel tends to want to align their comics with their movies a bit, mainly around the time of release. That's why just recently last year we saw Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man books again, obviously because he was in the film. That's why in 2012 we had the Lizard storyline right around the release of ASM-1. Doc Ock got a bunch of miniseries around the release of Spider-Man 2, yada yada yada.
And that Hollywood issue of that Hollywood arc also, wasn't it? Where like where they actually called out, oh, we're gonna cast Alfred Molina as Doc Ock and Tobey Maguire as you, Spider-Man. Get it? Get it?
I don't remember that, but
it's the Hollywood arc in Ultimate. It's like that was like their tie into Spider-Man 2.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Doc Ock arc in JMS's run.
No.
Okay, never mind then. I feel embarrassed.
And then you had Death in the Family that Peter Parker
tied into the first film.
Yeah, the Peter Parker Spider-Man, and also Mary Jane being thrown off the bridge. I think that's when that issue of Ultimate happened, when the movie was coming out too. Or Mary Jane gets thrown off the Ultimate Bridge by Goblin.
So Marvel, excuse me, I apologize. I just woke up from a nap, even though it's 9:30 at night. But when you teach 6th grade band, okay, I see. When you help teach 6th grade band, yeah, it can be tiring. I love little kids. Okay, that sounds awful, but I love working with the kids, but it is very exhausting. Okay, so what was I even talking about? All right, Back in Black. So Marvel has a tendency to want to tie their comics into their movies, and so that is why that is pretty much the entire reason, according to J. Michael Straczynski, who wrote the thing. That is pretty much the entire reason that we even got Back in Black in the first place. Because according to J. Michael Straczynski, and James is the one who filled me in on this point, he does not even consider the story to be canon. He considers it to just be a complete movie tie-in, just completely filler, and that basically the next story after Civil War, after Amazing 538, is One More Day. James, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's actually, if you got the One More Day trade paperback, not the Back in Black one, the One More Day one, because they had like this whole interview with J. Michael where it's like, goodbye from your 7 years on Amazing Spider-Man, your run. Oh, what was your greatest moments? What villains do you wish you could have used that you didn't get a chance to? And blah 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 blah. And they asked him a question about Back in Black, and he outright said, "To me, it's filler. To me, my story, that story begins with Civil War, it ends with One More Day, and you can he said, and it's true. You read Civil War and then read One More Day Part 1 immediately after each other, it fits." Filler that they told him, oh, you got for like a few months, we're gonna need you to tie into the movie because obviously, Brand New Day, we don't want to do that because we want to set up the new world.
And they don't want to start off with a dark, depressing story when Brand New Day was clearly meant to be a more lighthearted, simple tone.
Yeah. And also, like, it gives them an excuse once again to show, look at how depressing the book is. Don't you want single happy Peter back?
Because that was totally a problem before we made it a problem by doing this story. But I won't get too deep into that right now as I scroll through these things right here. So Back in Black comes out around the Spider-Man 3 movie, and it takes a drastically darker tone than I think 99% of the Spider-Man stories I've ever read. I mean, it becomes almost unrecognizable, I think, as Spider-Man if he was not wearing the actual costume. And for most of it, he's not wearing the classic red and blue threads. He's wearing obviously his black costume, and we'll get into the reasons why he's doing that in a few seconds here as we start.
Which is
Digging.
Well, if I can interrupt you, that's another reason why GMS says it's not canon in his head, because he's wearing the black suit there, and there's no mention about what happens to the red and blue in the beginning of Back in Black. Why is he switching to the black suit? And then at the end of Back in Black, he never takes off the suit or says, I'm going back to the red and yellow. I mean, the red and black. He just, one more day starts, and he's back in the red and blue.
He decided to switch off his emo mode. He decided that the disco dancing down the sidewalk was a bad idea. Excuse me.
Back in Black, Peter doing that is just hilarious. I'm gonna kill you right now, Kingpin.
But I'm gonna make sure that I'm staying alive.
Tony Stark got the Avengers ready to snipe my head like Captain America.
Staying alive. Okay, well now that we've pissed off disco fans,
Disco's been
and insulted.
Disco has an
my history of pop music professor this past semester, he told me that he thinks disco is on a comeback.
How?
I was gonna say, like, are you on drugs? Since when is disco on a comeback? I was like, if anything, more 80s pop music's on a comeback, but whatever. All right, well, let's not even talk about disco. But to be honest, I'm not as big of a hater of disco as a lot of people are. All right, so moving into the actual Back in Black story, because I think we've set up a lot of the premise behind Back in Black. As we move into the actual Back in Black story, it takes place over 5 issues, at least the Amazing Spider-Man portion of it. Amazing Spider-Man 539 through 543. Run down to the creative team here. Writer J. Michael Straczynski, penciler Ron Garney, inker Bill Reinhold, colorist Matt Milla, letters by Corey Petit, assistant editor Michael O'Connor, and editor Axel Alonso. So there's your creative team there for copyright purposes, or whatever purposes we have to give that for. Probably just credit where credit is due. So basically, the basic plot of Back in Black. Aunt May, at the end of Civil War, was shot by an assassin. Can we remember the assassin's name?
No.
Was it Jake? Was that ever given?
I don't remember. It probably wasn't. Peter was looking him up and all that stuff where he lived. But honestly, I reread those issues like earlier today, and he's just a sniper. It's like Uncle Ben's killer. It's just the burglar. Aunt May's killer. It's just the sniper.
He has a star tattooed on his left hand. All right. So we'll call him Sniper Man. So Sniper Man shoots Aunt May through a window. Peter freaks out. They call an ambulance, and they register her in the most expensive but also best quality hospital in New York City. Under her maiden name of May Riley, because obviously they don't want to give her name as May Parker, because Peter Parker's identity as Spider-Man has been outed because he was out of character in Civil War. Or excuse me, he decided to pull off the mask in Civil War. That's the politically correct explanation for it. But so they register her in the hospital. They put her in surgery, all that stuff, and the doctors say she's in a coma. It's all up to her now, but she's probably not going to make it. And so Peter decides to basically Peter acts out of complete anger in this situation. I was going to say Peter turns on his emo mode, but to be honest, that might be a bit of an might be a bit too far. Peter does act out of a bit of understandable anger here. I mean, I understand the character's angst. I honestly do. If I was put in that situation, I would probably be a bit pissed off myself. All right, so I understand the character's angst here. I'm not gonna insult him for that. But so Peter decides, he's going to go out and he's going to find the man responsible for this. But he decides that he cannot do that in his red and blue costume, and so he decides to go back and find his black costume because it's how he feels right now. It's reflective of his overall tone and just his entire mood right now. So the next two issues are basically just a manhunt for the sniper, and he discovers that the sniper was not just a random act of violence. It was given by an executive order, and the moment he figures out who the order was given by, it leads to one of the most brutal fight issues ever, I think, in Spider history probably. Peter figures out that the sniper was given the order to hit. It was actually an order to take him out, but the Kingpin's order were, if Peter is not there, take out anyone who is, and that will hurt him probably just as much. And so Peter discovers that the Kingpin was responsible for the sniper, and so he goes to see the Kingpin in prison. Let's just say that Peter and the Kingpin do not have the best of an interaction. Let's just say handshaking is not what they do, and it goes beyond just a little. It goes beyond a slap on the wrist. Though there is slapping.
I'm sorry, so that's the panel that.
It goes beyond a slap. Yeah, it goes beyond a slap on the wrist, and there is a lot of slapping involved. There's a lot of slapping involved. So Peter brutally beats the Kingpin in front of all the other convicts, and he says, I'll have beaten you now, and that's what you have to live with. So, but the moment my aunt croaks, I'm coming back for you to finish you off permanently. And so Peter leaves and goes back to the hospital, and they realize, sooner or later, because we're paying for this hospital room in just plain old cash, not through an insurance company, that's shady enough. And then we refuse to give them all this information. That's even more shady. We haven't called the case into 911. Basically, someone's going to figure out that we have something to hide. So Peter and MJ move Aunt May to a different hospital, basically by committing about 10 felonies in about 5 minutes. And not that they hadn't been committing felonies through this entire story. And so the story ends with Peter, Aunt May, and Mary Jane. Peter and Mary Jane have no idea what to do, and Aunt May's still lying there. That's a basic plot synopsis of Back in Black. I apologize if it wasn't the most detailed, but to be honest, there's a lot of this story that doesn't have a lot of substance to it. And I'll get into that more as we discuss. As we discuss the story more in depth. But there's a good portion of this story that has no depth to it whatsoever. That is just angst. Hey, if you did not know this was a dark story, we are going to take every single possible chance we can get to remind you that this is a dark story.
Hey, if you like angst with Spider-Man, watch this movie that's now on a feeler.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised that there was no footnote anywhere saying, "Oh, hey, go see Spider-Man 3 out in theaters right now."
There was one, John.
There was?
Yeah, in the original comics, years later, like a few years later, in Brand New Day, when Harry came back and he's telling his origin story against Spider-Man, Peter, they're recapping everything. I took a formula. I found out that Spider-Man's secret identity made me snap. And he says Spider-Man's secret identity because he can't remember Peter. So he does all this list about everything and then how he died. And they go, as the footnote to all the asterisks goes, well, just go watch Spider-Man 3.
Oh, I meant in this story. I meant I can't believe they didn't try to. I can't believe they didn't try to promote the movie in this story because it's like, hey,
they had ads in the original copies.
I bet the one ad they didn't show was Peter disco dancing down the sidewalk.
No, it's just like the poster saying coming soon or out now or whatever.
Yeah, because that, I mean, when we get down to it, that's all the story is, just a big advertisement for Spider-Man 3, which does that, which, do all at, well, I'm trying to phrase the sentence right, but I can't think of it, so I'm just going to drop the idea. When you have a story that is just a complete blatant advertisement for something, well, just for something else, it doesn't always turn out so well. And I think that was the case with this story, unfortunately. When I give my general thoughts on Back in Black, they're not very positive. While I do recognize that the story has its good points, such as the artwork, I think Ron Garney does a good job with the pencils in this story.
You like the Garney artwork? I didn't like the artwork, even back when when he was on his run of Amazing during these two arcs. I didn't like.
Okay, so I guess we have. I think Ron Garney does a fine job with the artwork in this. I think he and his team they do a pretty good job with the visuals in this story.
It's not the worst artist ever worked on Amazing Spider-Man. It's not Ramos' art, but it's still pretty bad. I mean, especially his black suit. It doesn't even look anything like any black suit before it when you look at the spider. It looks kind of really skinny and weird.
And then, I mean, I do understand Peter's angst. I do understand that. I'm not going to trash the guy for being pissed off that his aunt got shot, because that's just disingenuous. I mean, I think I would feel pretty mad if that happened to me. So to insult the character for that, I think would be just legitimately. It would just be dishonest of me, I think. But I do think there are points in this story where it is all just angst. There is nothing else to the story. It's all just
filler.
Ooh, I'm dark. I'm dark because I'm wearing black. Because that's the only way I can be dark. Even though the Punisher wears bright blue and he's dark. But whatever.
Well, actually, the Punisher wears black. It's just the small effect makes the suit look blue.
Well, I feel like a moron. Okay. But my general thoughts on Back in Black are, it's because I had read this story before, and I read it yesterday, and I was able to read it all in like maybe 45 minutes, if it was even that long. I was able to read the 5 issues just straight through. And I think part of the reason that I read the story so quickly is because it can read so fast because there's not a lot to it. I mean, I had written down in my notes that issue 540 and 541 of Amazing are just, I'm going to find the guy. Oh, I've done this to find the guy. Oh, I've done this to find the guy. But it never feels like the plot's. I'm trying to articulate this right.
There's no plot. It's just Spider-Man. It's tying up the loose end of what happened to the sniper. I'll give them that credit, because if this was filler, then that meant the sniper was gonna go on cot. When Brandon Day happened, because they weren't gonna ever deal with it.
And I do give them credit for tying up. I do give them credit for tying up that plot point, and I do like that was handled in this story. Obviously, before major changes happened in One More Day. I do like that they attempted to tie up their loose ends before they completely just threw down with the ship. I think
that was the cool thing I think about Back in Black, where maybe not Amazing. But the other books knew they were on borrowed time, because as soon as One More Day happens, they're canceled. And then the Brain Trust takes over with the 3 times a month. And so there was we had a lot of stories going on here. We had to wrap these up, and I give them credit, because they either wrapped things up or they had them being set up for Brain Day. Because they had Sensational being an Eddie Brock story, where Eddie's nuts, he still thinks he has the black suit, he's having cancer, and he finds out, oh, Aunt May's in the same hospital. And he goes to kill her. But then before he can put the pillow over her face and kill her, it's been a while since I read that, but he snaps out of it and says, "I can't do it," and then that sets him up with being the changed man that he is at the homeless shelter, trying to help out people when he becomes Anti-Venom. It kind of sets that up. And then in Friendly Neighborhood, that was where most of the filling in the loose ends came. Because they filled in the loose ends Betty's reaction to Peter unmasking, Flash's reaction to unmasking, his confrontation with Jonah after unmasking. Oh, remember the other storyline, how it went unresolved? Yeah, we tried to wrap it up until Dan Slott forgot that and just decided to wrap it up with Spider-Verse.
Yeah, they tried to do as much as they could with that book. I think Peter David was writing that book at the time. Yeah, Peter David's a pretty good writer. I enjoy his work a lot.
Oh yeah, his Friendly Neighborhood I think was some of the best stories of that era.
Absolutely, no question. And so, as we move into Back in Black, I mean, pretty much it's been as we compare Amazing to Sensational in Friendly Neighborhood, we had Peter David on Friendly Neighborhood. Who was the writer of Sensational? I'm completely blanking on that.
His name it was like I can't even pronounce it. I'm not gonna try because I don't want to sound racist.
Roberto Aguirre Sacasa. That was
that's it. I didn't want to say it wrongly.
Oh man, how did I forget a name like that? I mean, that's an awesome name. I'm just gonna say that right now. That's an awesome name.
I felt bad for Sensational Spider-Man during Back in Black because Sensational was the more kind of because it basically was just the Marvel Knights imprint without the name Marvel Knights attached to it, and that was so it was a little bit more darker, grim, gritty Spider-Man. He was still quipping and making jokes, but like lizards eating people and with blood dripping out of his mouth and during Sensational, like it still got that gritty element to it. And during Back in Black, all of a sudden all the other Spider-Man books went really dark, and it was kind of like Sensational was kind of like, oh, it's just there because it's the third Spider-Man book.
I mean, and as we discussed, even JMS really is not a big fan of the Back in Black story. I mean, he hasn't deliberately outright said, I don't like the story, but he says that he does not consider it canon. So basically, it's not important in his eyes. And when you have the writer of a story basically saying, oh, just forget about it, that's probably not a good sign. And it's probably
because we know the story is canon because in the Daredevil run when they brought back Kingpin after Back in Black, he outright says, I want to get Spider-Man for what he did to me in the prison or something like that. He says he goes first on my hit list, Daredevil, second Spider-Man for what he did to me. So it sets it up there that at least in Marvel it was continuity. It was canon. It was just GMS's own head canon that him personally from his run beginning to end, he felt like that was his filler that didn't really happen. It was a side story.
And so, I mean, I think I've been talking quite a bit here. I mean, James, what are your overall general thoughts on Back in Black as just as the story in general?
Well, let me go back to me. It was 2007. I was actually going through my emo phase. Yes, I was a Spider-Man fan, teenage Spider-Man fan, going through an emo phase, listening to My Chemical Romance, and thinking, Spider-Man 3 is gonna be awesome, dude. He has the flip haircut like me. I went
through a quote unquote emo phase as well. I had, but the thing was, I had this really stupid thing where I had my hair like parted right here, and then this side was emo, but this side was like, I don't know, quote unquote preppy. I don't know. I had a stupid part in my hair, and then I flipped part of it to the side. That was how literally stupid I was.
I never really had the flip haircut. I kind of had it where, because I always had long hair like this, and I had it where like one of my eyes was almost like almost like a comic book when you see like the mysterious evil woman. How she has like that one side of her face covered up by the hair. That was pretty much kind of like what I had. But anyways, that's inside at 2007 James of people. And so as an emo kid who was going for an emo phase at the same time Spider-Man in both the big screen and the comics was going for an emo phase, it was really depressing. Like, I was reading, and when I got to the ending of that final arc, that final issue where it was like, oh my God, God help me, I committed all these crimes. And I'm reading that. I'm like, oh my god, this is depressing. This is dark. How do you go back from this? I mean, how do we get back to Spider-Man from this? I mean, how is this One More Day and this Brand New Day comic going to fit with this? I mean, it's so dark. What are they going to do? And then, like I said, 4 months later, son of a bitch, I'm pissed off because it was One More Day.
And I will just interject here. I heard there was a meme online that said Andrew Garfield was the emo Spider-Man. I apologize to you people, but I'm afraid you are misinformed. That was Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3. No disrespect to Tobey Maguire, that was written in the script, but Andrew Garfield was not the emo Spider-Man.
Well, to be fair, it's just that was the rock star image at the time. If Spider-Man 3 would have came on in the 90s, he would have been all grunge with Nirvana. If it came on the 80s, he would have been all, hair metal band, and everything, like Poison or Guns N' Roses. And if it came on the 70s, he'd be all white and black makeup, wanting to be the next member of Kiss or Alice Cooper. Like, that's what it was going to be. To be granted, to give them credit, they were trying to capitalize it with, what was popular at the time, that whole kind of dark and edgy thing. But
there's not a lot wrong with that.
Grunge, emo Peter Parker, grungy Peter Parker, 80s hair metal band Peter Parker, 70s makeup Kiss, kind of that 70s band kind of look. Peter Parker. Know what they all have in common? They don't match Peter Parker.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, wanting to capitalize on the pop culture sensation of the time, unfortunately, proved to be a detriment for his characterization.
Because Back in Black, like I said, it's depressing. It's at the time I liked it because, like I said, I was going for an emo phase. So I was like, oh, it's depressing, so I kind of like it. But at the same time, it's like it's Spider-Man. Like I said, I had friends who are emo who also were into Spider-Man, and they were like, wow, this is dark. So that's telling you something right there.
You see, I'm the only I think...
Oh, yo.
Maybe it's because I'm literally about to graduate high school in less than 10 days, and maybe I'm just like maybe I'm just insane, but none of my other friends read comic books, at least my real-life friends, and not my friends that are on the internet, because...
Oh, I'm not a real-life friend, thanks, John. Ass.
What?
Oh, I'm not a real-life friend? Ass.
Okay, that was poorly worded. What I will say is friends that I can physically interact with face to face, not via a screen. But
your apologies accepted.
Thank you. That makes me feel better. I'm going to sleep well tonight. I hope I'm going to sleep well tonight. I need sleep. I don't know. Oh yeah. So none of my face to face friends read comics. So I can't really discuss Spider-Man with them. They do watch the Marvel movies though, so I can discuss those with them. I had a lengthy discussion with some about I think it was Captain America, Winter Soldier. I had a lengthy discussion with someone about that was fun. Which, by the way, if you've not seen it, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, that's a good movie. Yeah. And so, I don't even know where the heck I was going with this, but so I was just gonna say I cannot relate to being able to talk to some of my face-to-face friends about comic books. So I would not know. But what I do have relatability with is quote unquote emo. I didn't go the whole emo route for too long. I went the emo route for like a month. Because I was just like feeling really depressed and stuff or whatever. And it's because of various personal issues and all that. But one of the people I was forced to work with in marching band, yeah, he was the definition of an emo kid. Let me tell you that I won't comment on that kid's personality, but I will say that I really hope he's not like indicative of the rest of the emo community. He probably isn't. I'm sure the emo community is actually a bunch of nice people.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm friends with people when we were in high school that were emo, and I'm still friends with them most of the day, and some of them still dress that way, and some of them are like me who just grew up.
I don't dress emo anymore. I'm currently in. People tell me I'm in my quote unquote preppy phase.
Oh, I never went for that. I was always a rebellious kind of rock star kind of guy.
Though yesterday when I was helping to assist middle school band, I was told that I was dressing like a 32-year-old teacher. And I'm not even in my 20s yet. I'm barely 18, so.
Yeah, when we were in high school, people and my friends had a running joke about me and my friends that we were Teen Generation X, and the wrestling fans would get the reference. Because they pretty much said they were like the rebellious wrestlers that were always against the man and the boss kind of thing. And that's kind of like how we were. So our kind of running joke is that we were Teen Generation X. Because that was like our joke, because we were like the teenage version of that. Like, we didn't want to listen to nobody. If somebody got in our face, we were all like, ooh, I'm so scared.
So getting off of the societal commentary podcast.
Yeah, let's get, this is last time I checked. This ain't the James Markin of 2007 podcast.
This ain't the Jonathan Webber of whatever year we're talking about podcast. So let's get back on to Spider-Man.
So, I got my PlayStation 3 that's right there at that same time.
To this day, I've never owned a PlayStation of any model. To this day.
You suck.
I know, I kind of do.
Yeah.
I've just never been a big video game person. Just never really have been.
John, have you ever read this from Back in Black?
Let's see. Hold up the cover. I have not.
Yeah.
I've seen that cover, but I have not read it.
Yeah, it's What If Back in Black, and the reason I'm bringing it up because it's a what if. It's if, well, as you can tell by the cover, it's what if Mary Jane would have got shot instead of Spider-Man? Because as we all know from the annual Sensational, they had the big moment on top of the Empire State Building, and here it is with her dead body. And pretty much it's if Aunt May gets shot, and it's the same thing as Back in Black. The press emailed Peter Parker going after the Kingpin and murdered him. But Tony Stark's after him too because the Registration Act. But what brings us up at the ending is the ending. Oh, yeah, the ending was a backish, was another story that was like, what if these characters became members of the Avengers or something bullshit like that. Aunt May comes out and criticizes Peter for what he did because she would not approve of this. He's all angry and angsty. Iron Man is like, yo, listen to your Aunt Peter, you're such a dick. And then you get like to here where Peter gets arrested. And in it, Tony Stark just says, oh, Peter, don't try to blame me or your aunt for your mistakes. You did it with your own choices. Your own choices, Peter. This was your own doing. And he goes, yeah, and I made the greatest mistake of all by ever listening to you and for marrying her. Quote, his greatest mistake was marrying her because if I never married, because right now there's some days that I wish I was never married.
Wonderful.
They turned a what if about Back in Black where Mary Jane's dead. She's not in a hospital and Peter's going all emo. She's dead. And Peter says, I never gave a shit about her because there's some days I wish I was never married to her. Because that was the greatest mistake I ever made was marrying her.
Because that's in character. Because he's totally expressed that 1,000 times.
It's non-canon, it's a what if, but it's one of those classic Marvels. Gotcha. Because there were some rumors with some fans that were hoping that this comic was going to be like the Spider-Girl for what Spider-Girl there, where it was a what if. You're like, oh, what if Peter Parker had a daughter after Clone Saga? Well, people were hoping that, well, maybe this will be like the married couple book that will spawn from this. Nope, Mary Jane's dead, and he wished he was never married from her. Gotcha.
That's fun. So, Back in Black, as we move in a little bit more in depth with the story, I mean, the main thing to talk about with this story is just the tone. It's the big thing that we take away from this, and it's while I have said I understand the character's angst, it's a bit unsettling, honestly, to see this level of darkness, this level of violence, the level of brutality that is employed by Spider-Man in these issues, just the overall just mood of the thing. It didn't. One, it's almost completely unrecognizable as Spider-Man, and two, it's uncomfortable. It is just genuinely uncomfortable. I was sitting there and I was just like, I don't like reading this book. I don't like the story. I don't like the way that this is going. I mean,
It's the ending that gets me. The way if I would have wrote it is he's about to kill Kingpin, he's about to do it, and he stops and says, "No, I can't do it. That will make me no worse than you." Kind of like what he did with the Goblin and Gwen stuff. He should have came to that realization. It's, oh my God, what am I about to do? This is not me. Cap wouldn't want me to do this. Aunt May wouldn't want me to do this. Uncle Ben would definitely not want me to do this. And then he should have fretted saying, "I'll call if my aunt's dead, and if any more of my family members get even looked at funny by your men, I'll come back and finish the job." And give him like that fret of, I'll come back after you. But he shouldn't be like, I think is that the thought bubble that he says even after he goes, "Would I really kill him? Yes."
Yeah, he does say that at one point through the story. He says, would I really be able to cross that line? Yes, I think I would.
Which, going by, modern day Dan Slott run, he never even thinks about doing. Even though he did take 2 lives before, the finisher and that one chick in Wolverine versus Spider-Man in the 80s. And technically Gwen counted as one because he snapped her neck with the web line, but then again he was trying to save her because the Goblin threw her off, so he's kind of responsible at the same time not. But so there's like 3 people who you can technically count. And also you have this storyline where he outright says, "Yeah, I would kill somebody."
Plain and simple. And I would feel no remorse about it. No bones.
Which is just bad, right? I'm not saying Dan Slott actually has the point. Peter Parker has taken a life before with the finisher and with that chick. And Gwen. But think about it. He tried to save Gwen. His whole point with that one chick in the Wolverine storyline was really dumb. His whole point was Wolverine was going to kill her as a mercy kill because she had cancer and the mob was going to kill her anyway. So she wanted to go on her own terms. She said, "Wolverine stabbed me." And Peter's like, "No, you can't kill her, Wolverine. You can't kill. You don't kill." All of a sudden, Peter's in the fight, punches her and kills her with his spider punch. Because he didn't mean to. The person he meant to punch ducked, and he hit her by mistake. And it killed her. So it's the irony, Parker luck. He's the one who's all like, "Don't kill her. Nobody should kill her." And his punch kills her. And then you have the finisher one. Where the finisher one, you can argue that he's in a war zone, and it's his parents' murder. So he killed the guy, but it was, I'm leading this missile that's coming after me back at him kind of thing. So I guess you could kind of even there kind of justify it. But Back in Black, no, there's no justification. Will I kill him? Yes.
Will I feel remorse about it? Probably not. Will I be recognizable as your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? No.
I mean, he kills him here in Back in Black, and he doesn't care. He doesn't even care about his own wife's death at the end of it. He says, "I wish we never got married." He's not like, "Oh my God, Mary Jane, you're dead" at all in this. It's just angsty Peter Parker. I want Back in Black. Remember me? I was angsty for Aunt May, but now it's Mary Jane. Lols, I never wanted to marry her anyways.
And then, I completely forgot the point I was just gonna make. But I mean, it's angst for the purposes of angst. I mean, I understand Peter Parker being pissed off about this, and I'm not saying that in the wake of his aunt being shot, he needs to act, completely exactly the same as he always would. I have no expectation of that at all. I think that's unrealistic, and I think that would be especially bad writing because that's just not how a person would react to such a tragedy like that. And I'm glad that JMS did not do that.
Peter would have never reacted to this because he has dealt with death before. Every other time, Gwen Stacy, Ned Leeds, anytime a character has died, he has snapped for a while and grieved and be angry and beat the living shit out of the person near death. But he never crossed the line. And here in this story, Peter was willing to cross the line.
Here in this story, I think it was definitely taken too far. I have no problem with angst in Spider-Man stories, especially in scenarios such as this one, but it was taken immensely too far in this. I definitely agree with James on that.
It's like I said, the ending is what kills it. Because I could have went for that whole dark storyline, but at the ending, when he got to that point, it shouldn't just be, I'm not going to kill you because I'd rather torture you with the whole thought that the second my aunt's heart stops beating, you're dead too. He could say that, but then you could have a thoughtful and say, I didn't want to tell him that I chickened out, that I can't take his life. That would make me no better than him, but I had to make him fear and think that I'm coming back for him if anything happens to her. Or anything happens to Mary Jane. I had to make him think that. But deep down, I know I couldn't kill him because I'm Spider-Man. No, we don't get that. Did we get, would I kill him? Yes.
And plus, I mean, let's talk about the Kingpin fight, just by itself. Let's just isolate that issue, because that's the full guts of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 542. Is just, Peter and the Kingpin have just a confrontation in the middle of the jail, and initially you think, oh, Peter's gonna get his butt kicked by the Kingpin. No, I don't even think Peter breaks a sweat during this fight. And I'm not even sure if the...
Well, if I can repeat for a second, John, the reason why I think it makes sense, because I think for all those years, when Peter fought a villain who never had superpowers, he went easy on them. Because he didn't want to kill them. Like, Kingpin, yeah, he's the head of the mob. He's the godfather of godfathers in the Marvel Universe. But at the same time, he's still just a man. So Peter goes easy on him. This is him saying all gloves are off. So, of course, he's going to take him...
It kind of reminds me of the early '60s issues when he's trying to hold back from beating up Flash because he's so sick of Flash's insults, and he thinks, no, I can't use my powers on Flash. I'll demolish him if I even, the slightest punch could send him halfway across the room.
I always thought like that was one of the really cool things about it, where they fail with sometimes later, especially with like Sajani now, because she's basically the Flash. And, yeah, granted, I'm not saying Peter should hit a woman. That is not even close. I know a lot of people are probably thinking that he should do what he did to Flash to Sanji. No. But I'm saying he should have a backbone. Because with Flash, it was, I have to pretend to still be this cowardly little teenager, even though I know one punch can knock him out. But I can't because I'm afraid that if I punch him, people are going to find out I'm Spider-Man. Or I could kill him. Or, of course, you get issue 8 where he does punch him out when their gym class is having boxing and he can finally fight Flash. And he knocks out Flash, and first egg, it's like Spider-Man 1. The kids, he thinks they're all going to respect him now because he stood up for himself. Nope, they hate him anymore because he took a cheap shot at Flash when Flash wasn't looking. And then later on, when the living brain thing happened, everybody in the school thinks, wait, Spider-Man was in the school. It's got to be Flash. Flash is the only kid strong enough to be Spider-Man, and that explains why Parker beat him. He didn't want us to know his secret. And Peter joins in because he's like, actually, this is great because then nobody would question me being Spider-Man in school. Yeah, it is Flash.
That's just the kind.
Because the
That's just the kind of
Peter by saying the only reason why you knocked him out is because he wanted to keep his secret identity. And Peter's like, I don't care. Great, nobody will find out I'm Spider-Man. Yeah, Flash, that explains everything. You are Spider-Man. And then he leaves and he's all happy. He goes, Flash will probably explain it all to them later. But I could go home whistling without a care. Fine. And then Stanley goes, who says we never end a Spider-Man story with things working out for Peter Parker? Tune in next issue where his aunt got sick again and he had to fight Electro.
I mean, that's just the kind of classic cheesiness that we love about the 60s issues. I mean...
But anyways, my point I was making is Peter should stand up to Sajani kind of thing. Where he, not hit her. I'm repeating again. Do not condone violence on women. I'll hit you if you hit a woman if you're near me. Plain and simple. But he should still stand up and have a backbone or saying, hey, listen, bitch. Like, that was one of my rants about that issue. And that's one of the things, is Peter here shows that when the gloves are off, he's not afraid to do whatever he can with his powers. But he has to hold back. And I love that about the character, going back to Flash. He can stand up and say, hey, Flash, one of these days, Flash, one of these days I'm going to punch you or whatever, whoever it was. But deep down he knows I can't because I'll kill him. And that's the great thing about Peter Parker is. He's what we all want to be. Us kids that were made fun of in school, we want to have that power to just knock the lights out of the bully. but he can't because he realizes killing's not the answer. He's not going to let it, kind of like what I read in those GMS, and when later on in this next few days when I release my next GMS article, when we do with a school shooting in Midtown High with Peters, it's basically Peter's confronted by it because he would never cross that line with Flash. And here he's actually kind of meeting that. He's like, oh my God, this kid crossed the line with a gun that I would never cross with my powers on anybody who bullied me in the school. Holy shit, this is different than 1962 high school. That was like the revelation moment for Peter that, oh, it's not the same world as since 1962. And it's a great issue. But that's my point. Peter makes, I can't kill. Oh my God, I can't cross that line. Even to the point of Superior, he's begging at people, listen to my Force Ghost. I don't kill. Ox killing. And here in Back in Black, it's like, well, I can see why people probably think that you'll cross that line, because listen to what you're saying.
Look at what you've done to the Kingpin. Look at what you were about to do to the Kingpin. Just actions speak louder than words.
Because when you think about it, some of those Avengers were with him while he was in New Avengers during this arc. Because pretty much every New Avenger post-Civil War till Secret Invasion, that was a 2-year gap. He was in the black suit. So Peter, for 2 years in Marvel time with the Avengers, was all, I'm going to kill Kingpin. I'm going to kill Kingpin. If I find Kingpin, I'm going to kill him. If I find Norman Osborn and the Thunderbolts, I'll probably kill them too. I'll kill him. I'll kill him. I'll kill him. So I can kind of see now why they were dumbasses for reading Back in Black. Why they were like, yeah, maybe Peter would cross that line.
And that's an interesting perspective to have, and it definitely, I think, adds a little bit to the story of Superior Spider-Man. But, I mean, just talking about this Kingpin fight, it's especially, I think Ron Garney in his artwork, his visual team, have to be given serious credit here because they depicted some pretty violent stuff. I mean, and it's part of my, like, I was really surprised at how far this comic really decided to go with just the brutality. Just Peter hits the Kingpin, and pretty much so many of the times there's just blood spurting out everywhere. Kingpin's just on the floor, a bloody, beaten mess. And it's not something you would expect to see out of Spider-Man comics. And it's not...
If you're going to see that with Kingpin, you expect it to be a Daredevil or the Punisher. And even Daredevil doesn't kill in the Marvel comics. At least I don't think so. From the books I read, he never kills. Takes life. He won't beat you to a bloody pulp.
And with Spider-Man is usually like, oh, what's up, fatso? You want to have a pie-eating contest? And that doesn't happen.
Which is one of the reasons why I really want to see Spider-Man, if it's Asa Butterfield or whoever it is, being in season 2 of Daredevil for an episode. Because the Kingpin and Daredevil in that is very bloody when they meet. There's blood. It's blood squirted, broken bones all over the place. And so I think that'd be really convenient if, like, Daredevil's all like, "This is my city, Fisk. I'm gonna take you down," and then you got Kingpin like, "No, I run the city. I got out of jail. You can't stop me." And I said, "What's up, fatso? Hey, Hornhead." Pew, 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 pew. Like, that would be awesome if Spider-Man comes in out of nowhere.
Hang on, Moby Dick. Time for me to reel you in.
Because that's what I mean, though. Daredevil will be like, "You have failed the city, Fisk. I'm going to save Hell Kitchen." And then Spider-Man's in the fight like, "Oh, come on, Hornhead. We all know that Kingpin will be mad if you don't let him be able to get his Hostess fruit pies." Wink.
Throwback to all those Hostess fruit pie ads and those ASM issues.
I can see them doing that. Like Peter going, "Hey, had too many Hostess fruit pies?" Wink. Why did you say wink? Because you can't see it in my mask, dummy. Man, you're as dumb as a whale. In fact, you're the size of a whale, Fisk. Like, I can see that already with Peter Parker.
Oh, man, that would get me to watch Daredevil. It really would.
You should watch it. It's a good show.
I've heard nothing but good things about it, and I have nothing personal against it. I don't have the personal motive. it's really hard for me to get me to watch or read anything that's like outside of my wheelhouse, mainly because it's just like I'm just stubborn like that. So nothing personal against Daredevil. I've heard it's a fantastic show, and I have no doubt that it is. I have it's really hard for me to get motivated to try anything outside of my wheelhouse. So
And
that's
it's
my own
very
personal issue.
gory. It's very gory. It makes Back in Black look like Barney and Friends.
Yeah. I'm not really a big fan of like graphic violence and stuff like gore fests. I'm not a big fan of that.
The show's been out for months now, so it's not really spoilers. A Russian mobster gets his head decapitated in a car door. A guy's arm gets broken off when it gets put inside of that bowling ball thing where the balls come out of. Like the guy traps the guy's arm, pushes it up from the elbow, and you see the bones just pop out. Which is somebody who had that happen to his knee. That was really painful. A guy went metal spike in his own eye. Sniper shots are point-blank range to the audience and the camera. So there's a lot of gore in that show. It's not for, if you don't like gore, I would definitely not recommend Daredevil for you. I would recommend Marvel's, Avenger shows on there and whatnot. But I won't recommend Daredevil.
And so Peter just pretty much beats the Kingpin within an inch of his life.
He does this
and says,
to the Kingpin's chest. Not his shirt, his chest.
Do you have the actual panel? Do you have the actual comic handy to show the panel for that? Because I don't think anyone's going to be able to picture. If you haven't read the issue, it's really hard to picture exactly what he's doing without seeing it.
It's that the original copies are in my basement somewhere in a long box. I'm not going to go out there while doing the podcast. It'll take forever to find them.
Let's just say, what he does to the Kingpin looks like it would hurt. And when I say hurt, I mean like literally like make you cry for probably 3 weeks afterwards hurt. I mean, it looks...
He probably was feeling it up until that moment where Punisher kills him in Secret Wars 1. Because he's dead now. He can relieve that pain. Because that would still hurt, I think, even to this day. Having your chest ripped out from this far.
Yeah, that really did not look pleasant. And just Peter Parker being that brutal is just, but like I said, it's almost uncomfortable. It's just not what I would want out of a Spider-Man story. It really isn't. And part of and something more general to the Back in Black story that I was thinking about was I almost feel like the reason that the story is so dark is because of the fact that it is into the movie, and so they're trying to play up the whole angle of, oh, look at this, he's in the black suit, so it's making him bad. He's a bad guy because he's wearing the black suit, even though it's not the symbiote and it's having no effect on his brain chemistry whatsoever. But
that's why I think would have made the story better. Because I can see why they didn't want to do that, because Bendis is already starting to build the invasion post-Civil War, and he wants Norman to run the world, and he wants that evil Spider-Man to be Gargan in the black suit. But you couldn't tell me that for a few months you couldn't write that Gargan loses the black suit. Maybe it's Civil War or in the issue of Thunderbolt, he loses the black suit, so he has to go back to being Scorpion for a little while, and then you just see the symbiote. Peter's in that church like it is like in Web of Spider-Man, and like it's going to be in Spider-Man 3. He's in that church, he's all angry, he's looking for a version of that black suit. He opens up the box, and it's gone. Because the webbing should have dissolved by now. Like that's one of the continuities in this book, is that the webbing didn't dissolve. And he looks in that box and the costume's gone. And he goes, damn, and he gets real mad. And then all of a sudden he noticed something in the corner. The shadow was moving. And then all of a sudden he screams, no! And it's the symbiote. And because of his rage, the symbiote rebonds with him. And that's why he's all angry like this. And then you end it with him ripping off the black suit again or something like that.
That would have made for a better story, because it would have improved. I mean, it would have made the characterization of Peter fit more. Because, I mean, to give an example, the reason I don't have a problem with the subway fight in Spider-Man 3, where he does supposedly, murder the Sandman, is because he was under the influence of the symbiote. I mean, while Peter Parker wouldn't do that, a symbiote influenced Peter Parker is a completely different story. And so that's why I don't have a problem with him doing that during the subway fight in the film. That would have been if he'd been bonded with the symbiote, even though and this may be something that more recent fans or just fans who are generally more unfamiliar with the comics may not know. In the original Secret Wars and the original Amazing Spider-Man story in the 1980s, the symbiote did not adversely affect someone's personality. Basically the symbiote's whole story was it wanted to permanently bond with Peter, and that's why he got rid of it. It had no negative effects on his personality whatsoever. The worst thing it did was make him go out as Spider.
It was a 90s cartoon introduced.
Yeah, the worst thing it did. Yeah, the 90s cartoon was really what started the whole, the symbiote makes you bad thing. And then that was carried over into Spider-Man 3, which has basically now made it canon amongst pretty much everywhere. I think even Darkest Hours.
He did get angry and get really grouchy with people and stuff like that during those Black issues, so I can see how you can retcon it and it would fit. Or the people who worked with the other media would think that's what happened, because he did get a lot more grouchy and angry when he was in the Black suit, like, Peter, what's going on with you? But he kind of rectified it as the Black suit's going, when I'm asleep, the Black suit takes over and has me do Spider-Man stuff that I'm not even aware of because I'm asleep. So he's grouchy because he's literally getting no sleep. He thinks he's falling asleep, but the Black suit takes over and takes him up to do more stuff.
Exactly. And
that was their way of explaining.
And that is
that he's grouchy because he's tired and he can't get no sleep.
And in other media, like the 90s show, like the Spec cartoon, like Spider-Man 3, it's just, the symbiote's like affecting his brain chemistry or whatever, and it's making him a jerk. And to be honest, I like that explanation better.
And I will give Spider-Man 3 credit, because when he's going for his emo days, if you notice, he kind of has like black around his eyes, and it's not mascara because he's going emo. I think it's also symbolizing that the symbiote, that whole sleep, he's not getting no sleep with the symbiote. I think that's also what's going on there. But you see him with little shots, and his eyes look like they're almost like blackening. Why? Because I always assumed that maybe it's because he's not getting sleep. Like I always said, like maybe that's like they're all like a nod to the comics, even like, even though they're going with the whole "it makes you bad" thing for the movie plot, it's also, he's got like a little bit of black by his eyes, is because also he's not getting no sleep with the symbiote. I kind of like that.
And so I feel like maybe that was a deliberate, maybe they were trying to make this story dark to fit in with that tone from the Spider-Man 3 movie, but because of the differences in the premise, it just doesn't work, and I've said this about 5 times in this episode, and I apologize for the repetition, but it's a statement that I feel very strongly about. It just doesn't feel like Spider-Man. It's not true to what the character is. I mean, and I'm not talking about the general angst. I want to reiterate that the angst of the story is not my problem. It's the extremities of the angst that just destroy it for me, because there are genuine moments in this where he's just completely unrecognizable, and he's just completely out of character, and it's unsettling to see.
Everybody's out of character in this story. Mary Jane is really out of character in this, because she's perfectly fine with Peter in the Black suit, because you can't tell me she doesn't know, because it's obviously in the media. Spider-Man is wearing the Black suit again while he's wanted for crime, and he's wearing the Black suit again. And when you read Amazing 300, what does she say here? I don't want you wearing the Black suit no more because it scares the shit out of me. And she's perfectly fine with him wearing it here.
And so, obviously, that's a bit of a continuity error. To be honest, that was something I didn't even think about while reading this story. I was just so focused on, dark. I was so focused on that I didn't even realize that. But
like, even in that final issue where it was like, he wasn't even Spider-Man, it was just him running around the hospital trying to get her in a new hospital. And even they didn't take a moment there to have her bring it up to Peter, say, Peter, what's got it in you? I mean, you're wearing the Black suit. You promised me you would never wear that again.
She's probably thinking, like, yeah, the last thing I want to do right now is piss this guy off by starting an argument with him over his clothes.
Well, they kind of had an argument in One More Day about what they should do with the deal, so she's okay with it there.
I don't know. It's hard to know what's going through these characters' minds when everything is just so...
That's the thing that also hurts me about Back in Black, is the continuity errors in it. You got Mary Jane's complete no reaction to the Black suit, even though she's supposed to be scared out of her mind because of what happened in issue 300 with Venom. to the point that they had to move. Remember, they had to move because Venom in that black suit scared the shit out of her so much. But here she's like, oh, I'm fine with it. But
yeah, so they moved into the Bedford Towers out of Peter's
which ended up causing
apartment.
more problems because the reason why they moved out of there is she was scared about Peter Parker's psycho stalker, and Bedford Falls ended up being Mary Jane's stalker. Oh, that Parker luck.
More like that Watson luck, but whatever.
No, she's married. That would have never happened. She never married Peter, so it's that Parker luck because she married Peter and then she had that stalker on her. She had 3 stalkers after she married Peter.
Yeah, that's Parker luck for you. That's because that's what the Parker luck is. Remember, everyone, that's what Parker luck is.
My God,
it
gets really bad because when you reread those old like Michelini issues from the ¡90s, and they wrapped up this Jonathan Caesar comic. I don't know if you ever read this, but you know how they wrapped up that Jonathan Caesar arc?
Yeah.
They had a cop shoot him, and Mary Jane's like, "Oh, you saved me." The cop, you think this issue's done because the cop saved her. And then the cop goes, well, I had to do it for you, Miss Watson. I'm your biggest fan. And then he becomes a stalker, too. It's like, what, are you fucking kidding me? And granted, they never did a stalker angle of you and Mary Jane until the Mackie Byrne reboot. But
yeah,
it was like the person who her stalker was another stalker.
Yeah, that was the end of the Return of the Sinister Six arc, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so, while Peter's off dealing with 6 villains that are gonna get the world addicted to cocaine or whatever that story was, Mary Jane's dealing with like.
That was just an excuse to bring back the Sinister Six. That's all that arc was. Like, let's bring back the Sinister Six and make it an epic 6-7 part arc or whatever it was.
And we'll get the world addicted to crack. Awesome. So, I feel like we've been talking for probably almost an hour, if not over an hour now, about Back in Black, and we haven't really gone into a lot of the details of the story, but it's kind of because there aren't very many.
Like I said, the only parts I remember are him holding Kingpin's chest like that, and the continuity error of, hey, Mary Jane, check her underneath her maiden name, Fitzgerald. Wait, I thought her maiden name is Riley, Peter.
Yes, in the original printed issues of Back in Black that were released in 2007, there was the continuity error that someone said that May Parker's maiden name was actually Fitzgerald, when it is really Riley. Fitzgerald is the maiden name of Peter Parker's mother, not his aunt. So I think that was corrected in the future editions. James actually had to inform me of that error because I actually read the digital issue and it is corrected in that. So I was not aware of that continuity error before he pointed it out to me.
Yeah. What makes it so bad is, like, Marvel not catching that they screwed up on Peter's mom's maiden name. Okay, his mom, everybody just knows her as Mary Parker, and she died before in the backstory. That's about it that you need to know about her. Pretty much.
She's M. Beth Davids.
Yeah, that's all you need to know, though. She died in a plane crash, maybe a spy, maybe not, maybe scientist, whatever continuity it is, and she became a robot by Harry Osborn before the Clone Saga. That's it. And so I can see them not knowing her last name and screwing that up. But Aunt May, which the main reason why Ben Reilly went by Ben Reilly is because it's May's maiden name.
It's a combination of Ben Parker and May Reilly. There you go.
But like I said,
that was the whole.
The other way they could have fixed that error and had it make sense is Peter go, check her underneath Fitzgerald. That's my mother's maiden name. Nobody would connect the dots there. At least it would take some time to connect the dots that it's May Parker and my mother's maiden name put together. Okay, I can live with that. May Fitzgerald, because it's a continuity error, I can't live with. I'm sorry.
All right. I mean, are there any like really? I mean, we've covered the Kingpin fight. We've covered that to a great extent. The sniper, the capture of Sniper Man. It's nice that they did wrap that up because it would have sucked if they'd taken the ASM movie route and never had him find the shooter. Because I love the ASM movies, but I was disappointed that Peter never found a star tattoo guy. He has a star tattooed on his left hand. Let me tell you, that cop was awesome. The cop who said that was awesome. He has an awesome voice.
Yeah, I don't think they ever were going to resolve that. Even if they did the whole, what their plan was with the Super Mega movies, they weren't going to touch that. Because I think their whole point with it was that they wanted kind of what Batman did in the 90s, where it's all like his killer's a mystery, like he never found his parents' killer, and that's kind of a motivation. I think that's what the route they were trying to go there, to make him kind of more like the I Am Batman at that movie that I always joke about. That it was like, oh, he doesn't find his Uncle Ben's killer, but it's part of his motivation. Power and responsibility is a big part, but it's also to find his uncle's killer.
Yes, power and responsibility is, contrary to some people's belief, I actually find that a bit surprising. I'm not insulting people who believe this, but just as a little bit of a tangent here, I find it surprising that a lot of people say that power and responsibility is not a big part of the ASM movie story. I find that very shocking because I've watched those movies and the theme of power and responsibility is very prevalent throughout both of them, I believe. So I find that surprising.
The first movie, it's obvious because that's the whole point, is that he's being Spider-Man as a vigilante just to get revenge. That's it. But then when he's on that bridge and he does the responsible saving all those people, that's when it clicks to him and he says, I'm Spider-Man. He's no longer the vengeful teenager trying to get revenge. He's now the responsible superhero Spider-Man. He's doing the right thing.
So that's a criticism that's always I've always disagreed with and have never really understood. I'm not insulting people who make that criticism. I don't understand that criticism. But moving off of that, we've covered those movies in depth very well. So I mean, as we talk about Back in Black, there's really not a whole lot more to discuss about it. It's just dark, black. I just wanted to hold up something black to the screen. I apologize for those of you listening on iTunes who cannot see what we're actually doing on the screen. I apologize for that. There's just not a whole lot with Back in Black. It's just angst.
To review it, I had to bring up a non-continuity what if, just to have time to talk about this story, because it's so little meat. It literally is filler, because there's no meat to this bone.
And JMS's comments about he thinks that the story is filler, it's not entirely undeserved. I don't believe it's entirely undeserved. I think JMS acknowledges that as well. I mean, JMS is a great writer. I do enjoy his work. And separating art from the artist, I don't think Back in Black's a great story. I think we could just go ahead and rate Back in Black as a thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down. I give it a thumbs down. I do not like this story. I'm not a big fan of it. I understand the angst. I understand that angle, but the extremities of it are really detrimental to the story, I believe, and just the fact that it's just a blatant advertisement for Spider-Man 3 in the middle of one of the biggest turning points in Spider history. It just gets a thumbs down from me. I think it's a failure, I think.
I'm not going to give it a thumbs up. I'm not going to give it a thumbs sideways. I'm not going to give it a thumbs down. I'm going to give it a thumbs meh. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not even okay. It's just meh. It's there.
It's there. You read it. You moved on.
And like I said, I don't got my actual copies. Like I said, those are in a different long box down here. This is where my Branded A era on up long box is right here. That's why I got these pulling out. But it's just like, I'm reading through that. Let's just pretend this is what's the final issue of the arc, and I get to that final page where Peter's all like, God help me, I did all these crimes. You know what I'm talking about, the scene where he's walking out in the scrub. And I'm reading that, and I'm like, wow, this is really depressing. How are they going to get him out of this and make him that fun guy who I'm hearing about in Branded A? And then 3 months later, you sons of a bitch!
I mean, I don't even think we. I mean, I was thinking about this earlier. It's like, do we need to talk about One More Day? I don't really think we do. I think we've expressed our opinions on One More Day several times throughout the run of this podcast.
I even messaged Jan about it when you told me we're doing Back in Block. I said we'll come back next week because then we're probably going to do the final part of this trilogy of the En Masse era, and then which will be one more day. And then he goes, "You're going to go on a 7-hour rant," and I'm like, "Yep."
And just because he mentioned Jan right there, Jan is still on the show. He's been really busy with school and his robotics team or something. I don't know what he does. I don't know what he does during the day.
He says he's at Comic-Con, but I'm going to say, like, right. He's at Comic-Con, and Thomas is with that one girlfriend of his.
Yes, I don't know. Are they still dating? I'm not sure. I
haven't talked to him since the pilot of the reboot, so I have no idea what's going on with him and his girlfriend.
Yes, good luck to you and your girlfriend, Thomas.
And Thomas,
good luck to you both.
And remember, Thomas, when you graduate high school and you propose to her, I want that first invite to be the wedding. I want that invite.
I want to be the ring bearer.
I would say I want to be your best man, but I'm pretty sure his best man will be some kind of other person.
His best man will probably be like his best face-to-face friend, because apparently real life isn't politically correct.
The only one thing I'm not going to be used to when we go to Thomas's wedding, like 10 years in the future, whenever it is going to be that it's going to be it's going to be a really long one of those really long weddings where it takes forever. Because as we all know, Thomas hates anything short.
Oh my gosh! If those of you who don't know our previous podcast, let me tell you, that was an inside joke. It was a very awful inside joke that should have been edited out of the first time he said it.
The first time I was late. I ever got the job, and I regret it. I regretted joining this podcast after that.
I should have edited that out, but I was too damn lazy to. And so I put it up. I let him say that.
Let's just say in a PC way, because this is not my point of view and this is not John's point of view. We're completely making fun of Thomas by bringing.
Don't even go there. We're not. Don't even go there. We're not talking about it.
And Thomas said it. Thomas regretted it, and we're just giving him a hard time for saying it because it was dumb, and he admits that it was dumb. There. That's all I'm saying right now.
That was, oh my gosh. I really thought we were going to be able to escape that, but we couldn't. Oh my gosh. That's going to follow me to my...
CBR will never let us live it down. At CBR, I'm sure they still bring it up about us.
You know, I'm going to go... You know what? I'm gonna, in probably the next 10 years, I'm going to be applying for a job. I'm going to get a teaching position. I'm going to be running a band. And you know what's going to happen? My boss is going to Google that. My boss is going to Google me. He's going to find that podcast episode out of all of them. And he's going to hear that. And I'm going to lose my job.
And then you say, I'm not going to edit out shit. You said that even on the air, dude. You said, I'm not going to edit out shit.
Yep. In my defense, I was a stupid-ass 15-year-old. Right now, the only difference between me and right now and me then is that I'm 18 and I'm dressing slightly more preppy. If that had been a video show back then, I would have looked like your stereotypical hobo. That was the phase I was going through then.
And I just want to verify it once again. I repeat, I joined like an episode or two later, so that's the pre-James era, people. The show has really became better since I came on it.
And I will not argue with that. To be honest, James has improved the quality of the show greatly. Not that we weren't doing a decent job beforehand, but having James on is more co-hosts is always nice. New different views, new different perspectives. That's always great.
Yeah.
Except when those perspectives are wrong. Or those people are jerks. Whatever you want to pick. Sometimes it can be both. That's why I don't get invited on any podcasts, because I am a jerk. And I make no bones about that. I don't know. Maybe I just have low self-esteem. If as we go through this podcast, you will all learn that I tend to be very self-deprecating. Not necessarily because I have low self-esteem, just because I find those kind of jokes funny. To make fun of yourself. I find making fun of myself to be very entertaining. Yeah, Back in Black, we weren't big fans of it, and One More Day, I don't even think we need to review it. I think we've expressed our views on it very, very
It
clearly.
sucks.
I think
Here's my review. Here's my review.
I'm surprised James isn't holding up two middle fingers to the screen saying that it sucks. Yeah, One More Day in my.
If I could give Brand New Day a grade, remember how I gave Superior an F? I would give One More Day a Z.
You would have to invent a new letter to give it that to describe the levels of hatred that you have for One More Day. And I'm not a One More Day fan either. I think in my opinion, it is the worst Spider-Man story ever published. It is completely just. I mean, it's an abomination of Spider-Man storytelling. If
anybody listened to the old podcast and they heard my reviews of the issues of Superior when we were reviewing them, because I came on from Darkest Hours up to the end. If you watch those reviews, I'm giving those comics shit. I am not giving them a chance. I am shooting them down as I'm reading those panels, and even I would say I would rather read Superior any day over One More Day. That's saying something.
I've read One More Day once, never gone. It was a horrible experience. I never went back to it because I don't like it. I don't like it.
That emo 2007, 2008 James burned that comic to the ground. I took my friend's lighter, who was smoking a cigarette behind the school, because I don't smoke. I'm straight edge. I'm that kind of, except for drinking alcohol, obviously, because I'm having a beer. But for drugs and smoking, I don't do it. But he does it, and I don't care. So if I did him dying from lung cancer from secondhand smoke, I blame him. But he was smoking. I asked him for his lighter because those comics were so bad. I didn't care if I wasted money. They deserve to be burned to the ground.
I have never directly burned comics.
Oh, and I never would again. Like I said, that was 17-year-old me. So actually, yeah, 17. Back in Black, I was 16 because my birthday's in August. So Back in Black is 16-year-old me. 17-year-old me was One More Day.
And let me tell you, I read One More Day. It was a while ago, and I read One More Day. It was years after it came out because I was not reading Spider-Man comics as these issues came out. So I read One More Day years. I read One More Day years after it came out. I literally had to walk away from comics in general for an extended period of time because I couldn't even look at a comic book. That's how bad of a taste One More Day put in my mouth.
I was reading it. There was a snowstorm in my town the day the final issue came out, and I didn't think they were going to take the deal. I honestly did not think they were going to take the deal. That day I walked into my comic shop. It was a snowstorm. Schools were called off and everything. It was a Wednesday. I walked in during a snowstorm to my comic shop that was open for the new comics, and I bought that comic, and I regretted it after reading that because I cried after reading that final issue.
Because it burned so bad.
I couldn't believe what I read. I came in during the marriage. I came in during those early GMS stuff. I came in like right after 700, right when New Avengers kicked in. Like Sin Fast was my first arc. So I had a long stand of the marriage. I grew up with the Raimi movies that at the time were building up to a marriage in Spider-Man 3 with him wanting to ask MJ to marry him. You had the 90s cartoons. Yeah, Water Clone, but he still married a Mary Jane, and in Unlimited, he was married to Mary Jane in that first episode. Everything I've seen was Spider-Man and Mary Jane, and here this comic ended, and it was over. And then Harry's alive, and I'm like, great, more Spider-Man 3 ties-ins. Only this one sucks because Harry's dead in Spider-Man 3.
Oh, look at this great girl named Carly Cooper. Oh, isn't she perfect?
Which I do love. Carly's first introduction to Peter is, oh, hi, I'm Carly Cooper. I'm a friend of Harry's. And he's staring at Mary Jane the whole time at the other room at the party as she's leaving on the elevator. And the Carly's like, hello? Excuse me? And he's not paying attention to her. He's paying attention to Mary Jane.
Yes, that is.
And I will say to this day, you hear those quotes from Quesada and GMS that originally Gwen was going to come back too in that issue. I'm calling it right now. Carly was going to be Gwen. Because Carly is blonde hair, blue eyes, long blonde hair, blue eyes, different than her look that she has on having in the rest of the books. She has more of a brown, more has brown hair, and she's kind of shorter. There it was long blonde hair that was tied up in blue eyes. And when Harry's returning triumphantly, Carly's standing there, also triumphantly behind him. Why would Carly be standing there triumphantly? And I noticed I probably just explained my own answer. It's Carly Cooper, but she's standing there all triumphant like a Superman pose with Harry, while Lily's in the shadows in the background and she's coming in late to the party. Why is she getting that big introduction if it wasn't going to be Gwen?
Because they realized that bringing back Gwen Stacy would really piss off the fanboys.
Basically how the story goes is everybody out at Marvel told them, no, you can take away the marriage, you can undo the unmasked stuff that we're dealing with Civil War, but you can bring back Harry because we kind of like Harry, but don't bring back Gwen.
Because literally we will be attacked.
Well, because JMS is a pitch. JMS's pitch for Brandon Day's ending, and remember, One More Day and Brandon Day were originally being planned out while Sins Past is going on. That's why he did the story arc. I repeat, he did Sins Past because he knew One More Day was going to be his final issue and it was going to reboot everything. That's the only reason why he said he agreed to do it. I think that while he was writing Sins Past and you're putting those Peter, Mary Jane, and Gwen things in, he was setting up, and according to him, he even says that moment where Harry's in that is the night Gwen Stacy died, and he's about to die of drug overdose. Something miraculously happens where he doesn't do it. Gwen doesn't bang Norman. Harry doesn't become a drug addict, so he never becomes a goblin. Norman never throws her off the bridge. She never dies. Peter and Gwen end up together. Mary Jane just becomes the on-again off-a girlfriend of Harry Osborn. That was GMS's original pitch of what was going to be the One More Day, Brandon Day, new status quo. And then Marvel, everybody else said, "What are you guys fucking nuts?"
I was gonna say, what? I mean, that's not just a soft. I mean, they were going for a soft reboot there. That's just a complete rewriting of history. That is.
Because, like I said, everybody pulled out nuts. And then they would say, well, he would still bound with the black suit, but he's dating Gwen instead of Mary Jane in those issues. Or instead of dating Black Cat, he was with Gwen. Which completely even fucks up Black Cat even worse than even what Slott was doing. Because Slott ruined character development by never having her re-find out the secret. That was her not even knowing fucking Spider-Man.
I mean, that would have just completely screwed up history.
I'm not bullshitting. Like, look it up. JMS's original picture, Brandon Day, would have been that. Harry never drug overdosed, so Gwen would have never slept with Norman, so Norman would have never thrown her off the bridge, so she lived. Peter never ended up with Mary Jane. The Clone Saga never happened, so we completely retconned that, because Gwen never died, so Warren never made clones.
My brain cannot even process this right now. It is how.
Like, they were going to retcon this is how far JMS wanted to go with retcons. That he outright outlined, because of this, Warren never made clones, so there was no Clone Saga.
Okay, to be honest, removing the Clone Saga, I would not miss the Clone Saga at all.
Yeah, I'm a Clone fan. I'm a Clone fan, so I would actually kind of be upset by that.
I would not miss the Clone Saga at all, but
hey, remember I was on the podcast. Remember I was on the old podcast and I called out that when they put down those like those web Easter egg things on the websites, and they called out Professor Warren and his cloning classes, and I'm like, they're setting up a Clone Saga movie, and then you and I think it was either Jacob or Jan or maybe even Thomas kept on telling me, no, they're not setting that up. No, they're not setting up. They're never gonna do a clone movie. And then we get the official release thing that from those WikiLeaks, and one of the movies they were planning was the Amazing Spider-Man, Jackal, and it was the Clone Saga.
Yep, I had to eat my. For those of you who do not know what we're referencing, once again, because of the Sony Pictures Entertainment hacking by the unconfirmed parties who did the hacking, they released all of the documents onto WikiLeaks. Let's just say apparently Sony was planning a Clone Saga movie. Apparently Sony was also planning a Maximum Carnage movie.
They're planning Maximum
I don't
Carnage.
know how that would have
They
worked.
were planning. They're planning Maximum Carnage. They were planning the Clone Saga. They were planning Spider-Man 2099. They were planning Spider-Verse. They were planning Kraven's Last Hunt and mixing it in with Norman Osborn's death. They were going to retcon Spider-Man 2, kind of, by having Spider-Man 1.5, by having, Peter fought Norman in between the events of the movie, so it's all cool. Why Harry's the Goblin.
Yeah, okay. Let me just say... I'll just say this right now, as probably the biggest proponent you will ever find for the ASM universe. Wow, am I glad we never saw any of that. Because damn. I mean, look.
John is such a fan of that series that I am surprised that I don't go onto the website and then John has a separate corner that's called Amazing Spider-Man Continues, and it's all his fanfic of how he would do it. My sequel would be this. My other sequel would be that. And then
here's my...
Sorry for my bad impression of your voice. I'm really bad at impressions, dude.
Then here's my 26-episode pitch for a TV series.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see you doing that. Andrew Garfield really gets the contract for all these things.
Andrew Garfield is 45.
Emma Stone is brought onto the show as either the Gwen clone or Ghost Gwen.
Andrew Garfield's like 45 years old in 2030, and he's playing Spider-Man in season 5 of ASM Continues. Oh my god!
Not only that, but it's like I'm finally graduating college, even though I look like I'm about to be in retirement.
Oh my god!
Garf. Too. How Peter was like retirement age real time by the time he graduated college in the comics.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's about as much as we can say. Back in Black, thumbs down. That's a thumbs down.
Nah for me.
Meh for James, thumbs down for me. One More Day is trash. I guess. Okay, that's too far, but I apologize. That's too far.
I burned it to the ground. So yes, I thought it was trash.
But One More Day is a bad story in our opinion.
Let me repeat. This is 25-year-old me talking about 17-year-old me. Okay, I don't condone that no more. I've matured since then. I'm not an idiot. So we get comments about how I was a dumbass for burning those comics. I like to remind you, 17 years old.
Hey, what are you saying about teenagers? No, I totally admit.
Teenagers scare the living shit out of me. They can care less as long as someone will bleed. See, I made a My Chemical Romance. Emo! It ties in the Back in Black. Okay, let's end the show here.
Okay. We do not like Back in Black. We do not like One More Day, and apparently, but we don't like a Clone Saga movie, but we definitely like Matthew McConaughey as Norman Osborn.
Hey, I would have liked the Clone movie if it was done right, and there it wouldn't be done right. Because that would just, let's keep on throwing spaghetti noodles at the wall and see what sticks.
Listen, but I love the
Clone Saga movie, where you did like a trilogy where like you set it up with 70s Clone Saga, Ben Reilly, and then the cliffhanger, oh my god, who's the clone and who's not, and then Revelations as the final movie, I think it could work. But just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, and the Clone Saga is just one of those noodles, no, it was going to fail.
Here's... I love the ASM movieverse, I really do. But I'm so glad that none of that ever happened, because none of those ideas really sounded good to me. Like I've said several times before, Mark Webb and Andrew Garfield, shout out to them, because I will always shout out to them because they're awesome. They had the right idea, they knew what they were doing, and unfortunately they were not allowed to continue with those ideas that were obviously good. So, but that's another podcast, we've already discussed it. And apparently the Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Hawks in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Go Cleveland! Let me tell you, Cavs, if you win the championship, I will give you some slight respect. I will I will give you credit where the credit is due there. If the Cavs win the championship.
You can tell John's not a
All right.
fan, really. Because John's like, if you win, I'll give you credit for the win. I'll give you a good job and a star on your homework.
Hey, I don't do the stars. I give them a stamp on the hand that says "good job." That's what I do. You ever had those teachers that give you the stamp on the hand?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
And then we had the one teacher.
Yeah.
And then you had this one guy who in high school, and a teacher would write their comment like, "Meet me after class," because you did an F. There would always be that one guy who would go, "She wants to meet me after class." Yeah, and guess what? It just becomes a school drama where it ends up she ends up getting arrested. Guess what? I'm not your friend no more.
I don't even want to know where that story came from.
It's one of my friends. He used to joke like that whenever because he was a dumbass. That whenever he get a paper, he was, well, she wants to meet me after class, and wink about it, and we're all like, "You're disgusting, dude."
Yep, and then there are those teachers who,
Okay, we're not going to get in this conversation. I made a one-out joke, John. I'm not getting in this conversation with you.
I was actually just going to say there are those teachers who aren't even licensed teachers yet. They're not even graduated high school, and they're already calling themselves teachers. That's me. Yes, that's me. I'm talking about myself. Or we could also talk about those teachers that technically are graduated high school, but they don't have teaching degrees yet. They're still running Glee clubs because one of the guys went to Washington. Oh, sorry, I'm talking about Glee again. Yes, I'm talking about Finn Hudson. Love that guy. All right. Shout out to James.
My shout out's not going to be from Glee because I don't watch that show. So, shout out. I only got really much shout outs tonight there. Really. Shout out to the people watching this because you guys are awesome that you're supporting us, and yay. Watch AGR. I don't know what else to say.
My shout outs for tonight. My shout out for tonight is Linkara. If you guys do not know Linkara, just go check out. James will like this. Go check out his history of Power Rangers, specifically his history of Power Rangers Operation Overdrive.
I already watched.
You will.
No, I'm just giving my favorite people. I already watched it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, let me tell you, that is funny.
It's all the way up to RPM. It's really great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm not the biggest Power Ranger fan on the planet, but I mean, I watch the show. I'll watch the show because I was a fan as a kid. So I'm kind of like just okay. I'll see what's going on. But someone pointed me to Linkara's history of Power Rangers, and I got myself addicted. That he does a good job with it. I want to give a shout out to that guy. Yes, James is holding up a Power Ranger right there. He appears to be a Red Ranger.
His name is Tyler Nervato. Tyler Nervato, the Red Dino Thunder Ranger. He's awesome.
Red Dino Thunder, isn't he?
I mean Dino Charge. Damn it, I said the wrong Dino team. There's 3 Dino teams.
Yeah. Wasn't there like Mighty Morphin?
Mighty Morphin, there's Dino Thunder, and there's Dino Charge.
Yeah, so evidently Power Rangers loves dinosaurs. My other shout out tonight. My other shout out tonight is to Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, who are apparently officially back together, but apparently they never officially broke up. I don't know. To be honest, I don't follow celebrity gossip. I just Googled Spider-Man today, and that came up. So, yay, Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone.
John's like, oh, they're back together. Phase 1 of my plan to get Andrew Garfield cast in the new movie complete.
That is not me. I do not do nearly that cheesy of an evil laugh. When I laugh evilly, if that's a word, when I laugh in an evil sort of manner, people will know it and people will be terrified. They won't be running. Well, actually, they will be running, but not because of... Okay, I'm going to stop this right now because it's 11 o'clock p.m. on Friday night. I'm tired and I'm going to stop talking because I probably shouldn't be allowed to be recorded past 11 o'clock at night. So, well, I will say this right now. We will be off next week. There will not be a show next week. I have a lot of stuff I do next weekend, so do not anticipate a show next week. But we will be back in 2 weeks to discuss the first issue of Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, because it will be out by then, or at least it should be.
Oh, I can't wait to renew my vows with Married Peter and Mary Jane, because Back in Black is the last storyline before One More Day. So we kind of, ironic enough, our last episode before Renew Your Vows, we kind of covered Back in Black in One More Day.
And to be honest, I didn't even plan that. It just sort of happened that way. So it's just sort of a crazy coincidence. So yeah. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Great responsibility. Thank you to Marvel, and Lee, Steve Ditko for being here, and see you guys later.
Yeah, see you guys. But one last final thing I'd like to add before we go off the air, John, because the audience is not going to get a chance for this, but I'll talk to you before it. But since we're not going to have a show next week, the audience won't get a chance to hear it. Happy congratulations on graduating high school, man. You're finally an adult. Go get a job.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Thank you. All right. See you guys next time.